battle for regulating abortion pills continues. We will break down Attorney General Liz Murrell's plans and reactions from across the country. Also, the legislative session quickly approaches. Bills already being filed, how one senator is working to keep the community informed. Plus, a major change in SNAP benefits. We'll tell you what people who need food assistance need to know.
From your local election headquarters, here is This Week in Louisiana Politics.
Hello and welcome to This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. I'm Andrew Epperson. Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrell is preparing for a major federal court battle in Lafayette, challenging how abortion pills are regulated and mailed in the state. Reporter Bailey LeBear has those details.
I'm outside the Kiwanis Club meeting where Attorney General Liz Murrell spoke about a major federal court hearing coming up. Her office is suing the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for how abortion pills are regulated.
There's over 900 abortions a month that are occurring in our state directly related to abortion pills, which are illegal.
Murrell says the upcoming hearing in federal court in Lafayette centers on a rule put in place by the Biden administration that removed in-person dispensing requirements for abortion drugs. She argues that change has allowed abortion pills to be mailed into Louisiana without direct medical supervision.
The health and safety of women and the unborn is at stake. This rule that the Biden administration put in place, which got rid of in-person dispensing requirements for these drugs, has allowed people to just flood our state with abortion drugs with no medical oversight whatsoever.
Her office is asking the court to reinstate the requirement that doctors dispense the medication in person, citing concerns about complications including sepsis and hemorrhaging.
We're asking the court to enjoin a rule that was put in place by the Biden administration, which got rid of an in-person dispensing requirement by doctors. And so the effect of that would be to reinstate the rule that requires in-person dispensing. And we think that that is important with a drug like this that has a black box warning and has known complications.
She says emergency room doctors are often left to deal with the aftermath when complications arise.
It ought to protect healthcare providers in the sense that there are emergency room doctors who are being asked to take care of people who are suffering adverse consequences of taking these drugs without any medical supervision.
Murrell also responded to criticism from California Governor Gavin Newsom, who has publicly pushed back against Louisiana's legal action.
Gavin Newsom's comments were offensive. I think they were improper and offensive. But, at the end of the day, their issue is with policy. They don't like the laws that our state has enacted. They should take that up with the legislature. They shouldn't be enacting laws in their state that purport to protect people from their criminal wrongdoing in our state. If I mailed a gun into their state, if I filed the identification number off that gun and mailed it into their state, that is the equivalent of what they're doing in our state.
Murrell says the outcome is expected to have statewide and even national impact. In New Iberia, Bailey Liebert, KLFY, News 10.
The upcoming federal court hearing is scheduled for Tuesday, February 24th. It's been a week since candidates qualified for the U.S. Senate race, and one poll indicates Bill Cassidy and Julia Letlow have some work to do. JMC Analytics and polling research shows State Treasurer John Fleming is leading the Republican primary. But we're a long way from knowing who will win. Fleming's at 26%, followed by Letlow at 25% and Cassidy at 22%. In potential head-to-head matchups, Fleming's lead widens 48% over Cassidy's 28%, 40% over Letlow's 31%. Those undecided make up a large portion in each poll. It should be noted the poll was paid for by Fleming's campaign. Lawmakers will soon be in session and bills are already being filed. One state rep is taking it upon herself to keep the community informed. Democratic State Senator Regina Barrow tells Louisiana First News reporter Deshaun Johnson this year will look a bit different.
Louisiana State Senator Regina Barrow is making her rounds through her district.
They need to be informed, they need to be educated, and who better to tell them what's happening other than the persons that are representing them.
Leaders have an unlimited number on how many bills can be introduced since this is the year before elections. Senator Barrow brought other leaders to share their efforts, but also to hear people's concerns.
We not only strengthen the kids that's coming behind us, but we strengthen the seniors that was before us.
Desmion Barrow raised concerns and questions about the minimum wage. Past governors and elected officials have all pitched bills to raise it from $7.25 an hour.
We're the biggest working population in the state and in the parish as well, but we don't know what we need to do to help to move the state forward.
A lot of people are working 2 and 3 jobs to try to take care of their families, and that just is not right. We need to do better by the people that we represent.
He says he hopes lawmakers can find some middle ground on addressing this financial crisis across the parish and across the state.
If we don't strengthen that working population, that tax base, that's going to either determine if our state thrives or collapses. What I hope happens is not only awareness takes place, but action on a state level to do something about our state economy, either in the point of raising wages to livable or lowering the cost of living.
Deshaun Johnson, Louisiana First News.
The Louisiana legislative session starts March 9th and will end June 1st. Some lawmakers want to remove the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education from party primary elections. In the state legislature, this would limit party primaries to House, Senate, State Supreme Court, and Public Service Commission races. If it becomes law, it would go into effect August 1st. This is also another Louisiana bill that could punish parents if their child threatens a school. The School Threat Accountability and Safety Act would make it standard practice to slap fines on the parents. This measure would also include stricter punishments for the students themselves and require schools to explain the consequences of threatening schools to children, starting that education in the 6th grade. Republican State Rep Michael Echols filed a bill to name a proposed new Mississippi River Bridge after President Donald Trump. This would be built on 2 current crossings over the Mississippi River in Baton Rouge. It's set to help with congestion on I-10 and other major highways. The sign will only be installed if local or private funds cover the cost. Signs average around $750 in each sign. New changes are now in effect for Louisiana families who rely on food assistance. Certain items can no longer be purchased using SNAP benefits. Louisiana First News anchor Brianna Moore explains what's changing and why state health leaders say it's a major step to improving public health.
Soft drinks, energy drinks, and candy are no longer eligible for purchase with SNAP benefits under a 2-year pilot program approved by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. State health leaders say the goal is to encourage healthier food choices and tackle rising rates of chronic disease. LDH Secretary Bruce Greenstein calls it, quote, a pivotal step toward a healthier Louisiana, saying the change redirects SNAP dollars toward proteins, whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. Louisiana Surgeon General Dr. Evelyn Griffin says small daily choices like picking water, fruit, meat, dairy, breads, or cereals over soda and candy can help reduce obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. Restricted items include sodas with high fructose corn syrup and artificial sweeteners, energy drinks with added stimulants, and most candy. But flavored sparkling water, milk, drinks with natural sweeteners, and beverages with more than 50% juice are still allowed. Reporting Brianna Moore, Louisiana First News.
Health officials say they will be closely monitoring the impact of the program over the next 2 years to determine whether it leads to measurable improvements across our state. Remembering former Xavier University president and civil rights activist Dr. Norman C. Francis, we will take a look at his legacy and the impact he left on the Pelican State. Also, why some recent changes at the IRS could impact your tax refund. We'll be right back.
This is your local election headquarters.
The city of New Orleans is mourning the loss of former Xavier University president and civil rights activist Dr. Norman C. Francis. Our reporter Ashley Hamilton gets us a look at his life and legacy.
Dr. Norman C. Francis, the longtime president of Xavier University and pivotal civil rights advocate, has passed away, leaving behind a true legacy many look up to.
He will be missed tremendously. He's just that profound a human being. and had that profound an impact. One person can't replace him. A prince of a man, iconic figure, there'll never be another.
Several local leaders expressed sorrow at the loss of Francis. Former New Orleans Mayor Mark Morial called him a steadfast champion for justice. Louisiana Congressman Troy Carter remembers Francis as, quote, a mentor and a giant whose steady hand shaped not only an institution, but my family's destiny. Francis became the first black and first slave president at Xavier University in 1968. He led the nation's only Catholic historically black university for nearly 50 years. Current university president Dr. Reynolds Verrett says Francis saw a vision for the school at a young age and took Xavier to new heights.
He came here as a student, carrying his bag. He was like them. He wasn't Dr. Francis, he was Norman Francis. He was here to take Xavier to a new level in the sciences, in the health fields. Now it's for us to take that legacy and carry on.
Beyond his time as an educator, Francis advised 8 U.S. presidents and even received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from then-President George W. Bush in 2006. He was also pivotal in helping the city of New Orleans recover after Hurricane Katrina.
A very positive influence on people outside of New Orleans as well as in New Orleans. Always somebody who was committed to our city. Just seeing the name of an icon, of someone whose contributions to our community were legendary.
Ashley Hamilton, WGNO News.
The university honored Francis with a statue on campus just last year, and a few years ago he was honored with a street in New Orleans named in his honor, Norman C. Francis Parkway. He was 94 years old. During a radio appearance, Commissioner John Paul Young announced his candidacy for the mayor of Shreveport. Young joins incumbent Mayor Tom Arsenault, who's seeking a second term, along with fellow Caddo Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts. Young says his main priorities will be public safety, cleanliness, and improving infrastructure. Over in St. Landry, Opelousas City Council members discussed a proposed millage increase that could be a game changer for schools across the parish. Reporter Zane Hogue has those details.
In their most recent meeting, the Opelousas City Council had the chance to hear from Superintendent for St. Landry Parish, Milton Baptiste, who went into detail about how a proposed millage increase can be a game changer for schools across the parish. The proposed increase is a 9.9 mil increase across St. Landry Parish and will provide the first funding increase for schools since 1986.
With so much time between funding increases, St. Landry Parish has dropped to 60th of 64 parishes in millage funding, resulting in teacher retention issues and aging equipment like buses and textbooks. This millage increase can change that. Baptiste also clarifies the millage can help every school in the parish, not just public schools.
The St. Landry Parish school system supports everybody, so this plan is not a public school plan, it's a plan for the entire parish.
And I think these are things that we can all see like immediately, so it's not a 3-year plan, it's not a 5-year plan. If we get this passed, we can start putting these things into place like right away.
The proposed millage increase will be on the ballot across St. Landry Parish in May. The federal government approves disaster relief for our northern parishes in the aftermath of last month's winter storm. FEMA says aid is available. The declaration will supplement debris removal and emergency protective measures. It also includes shelters, emergency supplies, and search and rescue expenses. You could get a larger tax refund from the IRS this year. Good news for many of our viewers. The White House says that's changed because of things that Congress passed and the president ultimately signed into law last summer. Washington correspondent Gabrielle Caracciolo reports.
This is shaping up to be the biggest tax refund season ever.
Tax filing season is underway, and the IRS says many Americans can expect to see a larger refund than last year after the One Big Beautiful Bill passed last summer.
Tax filing season is no one's favorite season. But thanks to the working families' tax cuts, things are looking up this year.
Among the changes, the no tax on tips measure allows for a deduction of up to $25,000, while no tax on overtime allows for a deduction of up to $12,500. There's also an additional $6,000 deduction for seniors on Social Security, and an increase to the deduction cap for some state and local taxes.
It's going to make a huge difference for folks this spring as we move into tax season. That is a night and day difference.
This legislation and these refunds have become a talking point for both parties heading into the midterm elections, with Republicans touting it as a big success, while Democrats who voted against it remain critical.
It was beautiful if you're a billionaire. You got
permanent tax cuts, but it cut deeply into healthcare programs, cut into food and nutrition programs.
They also enacted the largest cut to Medicaid at the same time in American history, ripped health care away from 14 million Americans in that very same bill. The one big ugly bill.
Another big change this year, the requirement for most to provide bank account information. In Washington, I'm Gabrielle Caracciolo.
An executive order mandated the IRS to phase out physical refund checks. The due date to file state taxes will be extended because of last month's winter weather. According to the Louisiana Department of Revenue, the extension applies to returns and payments due between January 23rd and February 21st. Taxpayers will have until March 31st to file. Coming up, I sit down with political reporter Piper Hutchinson from the Louisiana Illuminator to discuss the big U.S. Senate race. That's right after the break.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back to This Week in Louisiana Politics. We are honored to have Piper Hutchinson from the Louisiana Illuminator. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to talk about the U.S. Senate race. It's the big story here politically in this state. You were there for qualifying. Senator Bill Cassidy, Julia Letlow, representative running for this seat. What is the feeling you have about this race?
Well, they're coming out of the gate strong. Senator Cassidy was taking a lot of swings at Representative Letlow, trying to frame her as liberal Letlow, which I'm not sure that's easy to do considering she has President Trump's endorsement.
In the Republican primary, you have John Fleming, Cassidy, Letlow, all trying to paint themselves as the conservative in the race. Do you think it's going to work for any of those candidates?
Well, I think that they're all trying to position themselves furthest to the right, and they've all got a strong case. Letlow has Trump's endorsement. Fleming worked for Trump. Cassidy took some far-right votes when he was trying to endear himself to Trump. I think voters are going to remember his vote to convict Trump in the 2021 impeachment trial. But the rhetoric, I think, is going to be all fairly similar amongst the candidates.
John Fleming and Cassidy mentioned Governor Landry during qualifying, but John Fleming certainly had some choice words about the governor's involvement in this race. What did you think of that?
Fleming said that the governor had spent a year trying to get Trump to endorse Letlow, and the governor hit back strong against that, said that it was false and that Fleming was unfit for office, considering those allegations.
Are you surprised that the governor has been mentioned so many times this early in the primary?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the governor is a very powerful political force in Louisiana. You know, people consider it to be one of the stronger governorships in the country. And I think we're really going to see the governor's fingerprints on this race throughout.
We have session coming up, so there's a lot going on with Louisiana politics. How do you see this Senate race playing out alongside session coming up?
You know, I think this race is interesting because it's the first year that Louisiana has these closed party primaries. And I think one issue that we're going to see come up in session is whether we should continue to have them. So I think the Senate race is going to have an impact on that discussion. And in some of the other races, notably the 5th Congressional District race, there are candidates for office who are still in the legislature. So we're going to see those candidates try to make a name for themselves with the legislation that they're filing.
Louisiana politics, never a dull moment, that's right. Piper Hutchinson, the Louisiana Illuminator, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure we will speak many times over the next few months. This Week in Louisiana Politics, we'll be right back.
This is your local election headquarters.
Looking ahead to the coming week at Press Club, Executive Director of Invest in Louisiana, Jan Moeller, will be guest speaker to discuss Louisiana's economy. She'll also talk about the state budget and the upcoming legislative session. This meeting is set for Monday, February 23rd. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics. I'm Andrew Epperson, and we will see you next week right here on your local election headquarters.